In this question we are given that there are 9 squares that need to be filled with x's and o's, and each square must have only one symbol. So we have to fill the squares with any number of x's and o's. We have to find out the number of squares that will contain x. Since there's not much that we can infer from the question stem, we move on to step 2 and analyze statement 1. Now in statement 1 we have that more than half the number of squares will contain an O. So we have that the number of squares containing O's will be greater than 1 by 2 times the total number of squares, which is 9. Now if we denote the total number of squares containing O's as NO, that will be greater than 4.5. Now when the value of NO is greater than 4.5, there can be multiple cases. For example, the number of squares containing O's can be equal to 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9. And in each case the number of squares containing x will be equal to 4, 3, 2, 1 and 0. Since we get multiple answers using this statement, we conclude that statement 1 is insufficient. And out of the given options, we can eliminate options A and D. We now check the sufficiency of statement 2. Now the statement 2 tells us that each of the 4 corner squares will contain an x. That means we can write x in each of the 4 corner squares, but we don't know if the squares in the middle will contain an x or O. Since we cannot find the number of squares containing x, we can conclude that statement 2 is also insufficient. We move on to the last step and check the sufficiency of both the statements together. Now from statement 1 we have that the value of the number of squares which will contain O is greater than 4.5, and we are given from statement 2 that each of the 4 corner squares will contain an x. That means the value of nx is equal to 4. Now if you carefully look at this table that we constructed in step 2, you can see that this is the only possible case when the value of nx is equal to 4 and the value of no is equal to 5. So we can conclude after combining these two statements that the number of squares that contains x will be equal to 4. Hence the correct answer is option C.